Today I've got a Q&A with one of our power team members. I'm here to ask our architect top 7 questions that you guys need to know before you start a new build project. So hi guys, I'm here with Alex. He is going to introduce himself in a minute and tell him about what he's been up to and what he's actually doing for our project. So a little bit of, if you don't mind, Alex, do a little introduction about who you are, what do you do, and how long have you been in business, and a little bit of background for us, please, if that's okay.
Thank you, Jay. My name is Alex Thompson. I'm an architect. Handshake.
Forgot the handshake.
Important. So I'm an architect. I've been working for Building Doctors for 22 years. We built nearly 1,000 projects now. Wow. And the idea building up over that period of time has just been lots and lots of double side, rear, lofts, basements, and all of these type of things. And in the last 3 or 4 years, it's been more new build. So houses, single houses, pairs of houses, 4 houses on one plot, this type of thing. And increasingly small new build projects, such as the one that we're doing here for you. Perfect. Although it's not so small, your project.
It's not so small, yeah, that's right.
Not so small.
Good,
it's
good.
Over 10, which is always good.
Absolutely, yeah. Magic number. Thank you for that, Alex. Thank you for that introduction. One of the questions that I've got here is how do you ensure that project starts off properly in your view?
Starts off properly?
Yeah.
You mean starts off in planning terms, starts off in technical terms, or starts off on site?
Let's start with planning and then we go through all of them because, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so start off. I think it's a very good idea in terms of planning is to allow enough time at the beginning of a project so that you have time to think about the design. Sure. We have a lot of customers who probably take 6 months in the planning and getting organised phase. They might get planning permission, but then they come back inside the house and then they want to reorganise the sinks, they want to reorganise the bedrooms, the position of the staircase and things like that. So sometimes that can affect the outside of the building, so you have to go back into planning and make changes. So it's not unheard of, and people think it's very strange. I say, well, let's do another planning permission. Yeah. You know, and they can take, 2 sets of planning permission can easily take 6 months.
It can kill a project sometimes, can it?
It does, it does. Okay. So it's important to allow enough time to enjoy the design process. Sure. That would be my tip number 1. Okay. Is be realistic as to how long it takes to plan and get organised.
Okay. I see. So that's planning next.
Next phase, technical phase.
Yeah.
Well, that is mostly down to how long it takes for your architect and your structural team to get the technical drawings together. And then once the structural design is organised, you've then got party walls and some of the local neighbour permissions to get organised. So that period, for a good set of technical drawings, on an average, say £200,000 to £300,000 build, okay. you could spend another 3 months there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas if you try and rush that phase, you don't have long enough to consider, say, the interior design. You don't have long enough to get permissions with your neighbour and things like that. And all too often, I find people rushing to site.
Okay, key, absolutely fundamental key. Okay, good. Thank you for that. Very informative there. Another question that I have for you is how do you balance function with aesthetic appeal?
Function over aesthetics.
Yeah,
that
correct.
Sounds like a really difficult question. I saw you had written that down and I was like, how do I answer that one? Well, I think the first question, the first part of that question is that I'm a commercial architect.
Yeah.
So that means that the object for me is to get planning permission for the customer and to bring the project in on budget and to hopefully bring the project in on time. So the aesthetics tend to sit behind that. The problem is that as an architect, I spent a lot of time at college and I spend a lot of time worrying about making things look good, and but nonetheless, they slot in behind the practicality. They slot in behind what it's going to achieve, you know. And the Conservative councils, or the councils, Labour councils, the very nature of planning design and council planners, they are very conservative. So if you want to build something wild with loads of glass and some, you know, unusual shapes, and something very aesthetically different to the local surroundings, then you've got to allow double the planning time. Get permission for the box, get permission for the volume, the standard, and then vary it from there.
Okay, I see.
Otherwise, you're going to be in planning for a lot longer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It takes forever. Just tell me about it. All our planning gains are taking slightly longer than predicted. But so yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. Okay, well, that's a really good nugget there. How to balance that? Not easy, I know for a fact as a developer. But obviously, we always hear to what you need to say. But at the end, the way I see it is, as a developer, obviously you need to look also at how sustainable the project is. I.e., you know, I need to make sure that that project is sellable, makes financial sense, as well as looks good, you know, as well as looks is functional. So we as a developers need that input as well. So we need to sometimes get you on that element.
For your project, one of the things that we did here for this site here behind us was there was quite a lot of render on the building at the beginning. We inherited, you remember you bought a design that was a planning approved.
Planning approved, yeah.
I inherited that design with you, and the first thing that we worked on was getting rid of the render, balancing the shape of the windows, and working on the aesthetic proportioning of how the building looked. And none of those things will cost more than the render or smaller windows. You know, by making the windows a little bit more wider
Absolutely.
and a little bit taller, clearly it might be a small margin of extra cost there, but taking off the render will have a big impact, and it will make the building look much better for longer.
Absolutely, for the end users as well, for the people that are going to use it for life. So it makes perfect sense. You know, little things make a huge difference, doesn't it? Sometimes in all.
Yeah, well, the render always looks terrible. I mean, with the London pollution that it is at the moment, for at least for the next 10 or 20 years, the pollution is going to be, you know, approximately where we're at. And so we're getting the Pollution Act in, is it 2021? They're going to reduce the pollution, but it has an effect on the render. And whenever, you know, if it's metal rusting, or whether it's pollution not washing away, and render can look so bad. So I thought it was very important to get rid of it on your building.
Yeah, well done. Thank you for that. But another good question that we have for you today is, what are the most common mistakes that developers make, in your opinion?
Well,
from wearing your hat.
Difficult question. Now, my architect hat.
How the architect hats, yeah.
Developers. Now, so with that, that's commercial developers and presumably, excuse me, domestic developers.
Residential, yeah.
I think, well, everyone has to start on the learning curve. And one of the things that I like to do is to, whether they're a housewife or an aspirational property developer, is try and help them on that journey.
Sure.
And I think having a good team, a good consultant team around you is always going to help, you know.
Sure.
And someone that's, you know, approachable, and you know, they're willing to spend a little bit of extra time on the telephone. That's important. So the question was about mistakes. More mistakes.
Yeah. What do you think?
Yes. Under budgeting.
Right. Okay.
Not programming enough time.
Yeah.
And not allowing enough time to spend, you know, design time.
Sure.
And accepting that, you know, if you're going back in and doing planning permission again, that yes, it is another 3 months. If you know, I wanted to draw your attention later to, you know, the triangle. You know, there's a very important triangle in design when you're building things. It's sort of program, budget, and design. And you can't have all three. It's very, very difficult to plan all three. So if you want to rush the program, then it means that either you've got to pay more money and potentially that your design will be sacrificed.
Right. I see. Okay.
So You've got a triangle. You can maybe get a card, or we can get the image up later. We can show you the image. But it's design, program, and budget. You see, and so if you rush to get the best budget, then obviously your design and your program are going to suffer.
It's compromised. Yeah, really good.
Or if you want a really good design, then obviously you've got to pay maybe a slightly higher budget, and then or go slower with the program.
Okay, makes perfect sense. Thanks for that. Other question that I have for you is, what skill has served you best in your career as an architect?
Don't know. I was thinking about that. You know, should it be my right hand for being able to sketch and communicate? Should it be the dulcet tones that I have on the telephone? Well, hello. You know, I don't know. What do you think? I think you know, being prepared to make mistakes. You know, and accept that sometimes things go slightly wrong. Having a good price for the customer, I think, is a you know, part of the negotiating skills.
Absolutely.
Understanding planning law from an architect, you know, is another skill. You know, being able to listen to other people. You know, whether they're planners or whether they are planning consultants or whether they're technical team. You know, you've got to be able to, as an architect, you've got to be able to sort of kind of do a little bit of all of those things. Yeah. It's not just looking after the boys on site and eating bacon sandwiches. You know, you've got to be able to do lots of different things.
Oh, good. You know, you've got plenty of skills there, for sure. You know, I couldn't agree more. You know, it's so key to appoint a really good architect for you projects guys out there. You know, one of the top tips, amazing, spend time scrutinizing their track record, scrutinizing the previous experience. Absolutely fundamental. And obviously, at the end of the day, is you're an extension of my team, aren't you? And we are here for the long run. That's all the work. Always, when I work with someone, obviously start with someone that I like, that I trust, but I love to create long-term relationships, and that's key and fundamental. It's just a lot easier just to start a project together, and then it'll be one of many. It saves a lot of time.
Well, you can build on the things that you've learned together.
Yeah, and then you get a good good win-win scenario. You know, you get preferential rates, I hope we get, and then obviously you get a long-term relationship, don't we? So many projects. Well done.
That's it.
Good. Next question that I have for you here is, there are a lot of cowboys out there in every industry, as you know. So, you know, if I said to you, well, to our listeners, how do you avoid appointing an architect that is a cowboy?
Cowboy. How do you avoid cowboys?
Yeah. How do you avoid architects? Cowboys.
Architect cowboys. Okay. Well, the first part of that is that most developers, whether they be domestic developers for their first project or whether they be the second project developers, many people will not realise that they haven't hired an architect. You know, and they won't realise it. And many people that come to me with drawings for, you know, a new house or a double side extension or £200,000, £300,000, £400,000 worth of work, they didn't realise that they haven't hired an architect. Unless it says architect on the piece of paper or on the email, then they won't have hired an architect. He may or she may call herself an architect, but they're often not. So that's the first thing to avoiding cowboys. It's not to say that people that do draft work, you know, there are lots of very good organisations that teach and provide amazing draftsmen, you know, that can do their job very, very well, but they're not architect, and that is definitely a different thing.
100%.
And so you can avoid cowboys by checking out their qualifications.
Sure.
And to making sure that the word architect is on there. How do you check out, you know, other cowboys? Well, I think that if you go to a big company and you think that that is an advantage, then you're quite likely to get a slightly junior member of staff who might be extremely capable, but you're not necessarily getting the boss of the company.
Sure.
So, you know, smaller company means that you're probably more likely to be working with someone with better experience, rather than working with the bigger companies and the chaps who've got less experience.
Absolutely. All right, that's a good nugget there. So when you said professional bodies, what's your professional body that you're governed by?
I'm governed by the ARB, which is the Architects Registration Board.
Okay.
All architects in the UK have to be registered with them. And then after that, you can get a secondary qualification or a secondary affiliation, which is with the Royal Institute of British Architects.
I see. Okay, so there's two professional bodies out there.
So that is the main professional body. So I am RIBA, Royal Institute of British Architects.
Okay.
I'm a member of them. So I pay them to be a member, but I am an approved member. I have to go through a qualification process to get into it.
100%. Yeah, myself also chartered civil engineer, and I know for a fact that it's not easy to get that qualification. I have to do lots of tests and a full day, exam to get it, and several years of experience, and I know how hard it is. So yeah, out there, guys, best tip is obviously appoint ideally a chartered architect that has experience and is governed by a body, so you're protected, because there's thousands and thousands of people out there that claim to have those qualifications and they are not, and then you are compromising your projects. Architects are key in your projects, so make sure that they are professionally qualified ideally, and check the track record. Yeah, good, perfect. Right, let's move on to the next question.
Question 7.
Yeah, the question I've got for you is, could you share with us 3 tips for developers out there to get the project on budget and on time? 3 tips.
3 tips on budget, on time.
Yeah, to get projects on time and on budget.
Yeah, this is on budget. Okay, so on budget, probably simple tip is whatever the builder says, double it. I know that's a really hard thing, because the builder will always, but if you take 3 basic builders, it depends on the information that you're giving them, but to get a project on budget, you have to have good technical information, and you have to have schedules.
Correct.
If you have planning drawings, full technical, and then you have a full schedule, then each of the builders can be pricing the schedule.
Yeah.
But if you go with, say, planning drawings, or with just technical drawings, just building control drawings, then whatever the builder says, you should, broadly speaking, you should definitely take 50% of what they say and then add it to the top of what they have said. So if they say 100, you take 50, add it to the top, the project will probably be about 150.
It's been a pleasure.
Thanks
Thanks
for having
ever so
me.
much for sharing your experience with us, with our listeners. We're going to do more of these videos, guys, so I hope you enjoy this interview. We're going to be building this for the next 12 months, hopefully. So we're going to do more, we're going to share more tips, so stay tuned. Enjoy that interview with Alex, one of our architects, answering those 7 killer questions on property development. Make sure you like and subscribe, and here on the screen, follow the link for more videos, and stay tuned. All the best.